Hi, I'm Donna Smith, and this is Sound Advice. Today's topic is being alone, straight talk. Now, I did talk about loneliness in another show, and I got a lot of people who were interested in that, and I got a lot of views. So, obviously, this is a topic that is important. And I understand that maybe some people are struggling with the thoughts of being alone during this holiday season and with the pandemic. Maybe you have prepared for a group of people to come to your home, and now at the last minute everyone's canceling and you've already dressed your house from head to toe. Or you were in a vibrant relationship at one time, but now it has ended and now you're going to be spending the holiday alone, or your kids are not going to be coming home, or you're going through a divorce, or you've lost your loved one, your spouse, to death. Whatever the case is, this may be a difficult journey for you. So what I want to cover is the straight talk message. There's some things that I want to add that I did not address in the other show, and I'm just giving it to you straight off the plate. So I need for you to stay and hear those tips. Stay tuned. So we're here and I'm talking about being alone, straight talk. And I do mean straight talk, so I'm going to get right into it. But before we do, I need for you, if you're not a member, if you haven't subscribed, I invite you to do that. I would love to know that you're a part of the community. So click that little red button down there that says subscribe and you can join the community. So we're talking straight talk here, being alone. The first tip is, now, if for whatever reason, let's say you've gone through a divorce or you're grieving and you find yourself in a support group, make sure that support group is lifting you up. In other words, when you leave that support group, what went on in that support group? Are they only talking about their misery? I mean, it's almost like a competition. Whose situation was the most miserable? Misery loves company. You know the cliche. But one thing the cliche doesn't say, yes, misery loves company, but the cliche does not say that misery heals you. So if you don't feel lifted up after your support group sessions, it's time for you to give it a short clip and move on. If you have friends that are contacting you and talking to you and fueling you with a lot of negativity and toxicity, it's time to give it a short clip and move on. In other words, you need to distance yourself from these individuals or these groups, because at this time in particular, you need to reach out via cell phone, Zoom, or all the different methods are available for us to reach out and connect with one another, and make sure you're talking to positive people that have a true investment in you and interest in your well-being. That's what I need for you to do at this time. Now, tip number 2, I want you to reinvent yourself. Being alone is a blessing. This is a time for you to really look in the mirror and look at some things that you've been doing. Look on your wish list. This is a time for you to be listening to that inner voice. Sometimes we get so busy doing so many things that we don't know what that inner voice is saying, and we lose who we are, and we start making judgments that just don't make sense. Take time to really do some true introspection and know, why are you doing what you're doing and where are you going? That's very important. Reinvent yourself. Now, a part of reinventing yourself is you can just package yourself differently. Maybe it's a good time for you to be thinking about that. If you're a person who's always wearing black, so much so we really thought you worked at the funeral home, spruce it up a little bit. Or, if you always wore plaid or something, maybe we need to change a tad. Or if you were a man and you just kind of looked unkept, trim that beard, get real groomed, put on some cologne. You always had a sweatshirt on, jeans, and tennis shoes. It's time to put on a nice shirt, nice pair of slacks, some bandolino loafers, or something like that. Switch it up. It's time to reinvent yourself. I like Joan Rivers. I want to talk about her because not only did I like the fact that she was funny, but I admired Joan Rivers, the astute businesswoman, and she was that. And she had some tragedies in her life, and I was reading her book, and this was the book that I was reading, Bouncing Back. And it says, I've survived everything, and I mean everything, and you can too. Well, in this book, she talks about her journey, because she kept reinventing herself. There was Joan Rivers, the stand up comic. And when I say at that time, it wasn't common for a woman to be in that arena with comics. Most of them were men, but so she had to go against all odds. And then there was Joan Rivers, the talk show host. And then there was Joan Rivers who had a television show. Then there was Joan Rivers who was the fashion critic. So she kept reinventing herself. But before she got on all of these journeys, she did have a lot of obstacles that she had to go up against. Number one, and the most significant one, was when her husband, who was her manager, committed suicide. So obviously she didn't plan for that. And so she had to deal with the guilt of the suicide, his not bringing in the income, and his guidance, and that he could not share with her how down he was feeling. And she also had to raise her daughter. And at that time, their finances just weren't steady. So she had all of these major obstacles. So when she talks about bouncing back, she knows what she's talking about. And there was a period in her life where, she started her day. Her day was about just being under the covers. That's it. That's as far as she could go. And that's okay. You have to have a moment where you can grieve. But she realized that she didn't want to stay there. So what I'm saying to you is, have a moment to grieve, but don't let that moment be your life. Separate that. It's okay. So now she's bouncing back, and she says what she had to do. She had to get up and make it and be intentional, regardless of how she felt, that she was going to move ahead. Tip number 3, plan your day. Now, before the day, I want you to come up with a plan of what you're going to do that next day. Have that written out. Don't get into the day and just wallow the day away because you're alone. No, have a plan for that day. And I want you to start your day first thing in the morning, 5 minutes, where you think of all the good things that are in your life. There is some good that's going on in your life. Either you like your job, or your children are doing well, you love your home, etc. But focus on 5 minutes. And that would really be good if you were to go outside and take some deep breaths while you're thinking of those 5 minutes of wonderful things that are going on in your life. And then after you do that, remember, you have to practice and rehearse having a mindset to want to do better and be okay being alone. And this is one thing I would share with you, one of my favorite texts, when I say start with a different mindset. And this is Philippians 4:8, and it says, finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. Have that mindset. Tip number 4, take care of yourself. Now, I alluded to this in the other show that I did on loneliness or feeling alone, but I want to mention it again. You need to take care of yourself, and I'd say drink plenty of water. Make sure you're eating plenty of vegetables and fruits. Just don't let your diet, because you're feeling alone or down, be wine in one hand and chips in the other. No, you need to take care of your body. Our bodies are not machines. They're just things that we have to do that's non-negotiable for them to work well for us. So make sure you're doing that and get some quality sleep. Eventually, I am going to do a course on taking care of yourself and total wellness. I've written a couple of books on total wellness, but I'm going to do a course on it, and I will offer that, and I'll talk more about that in the future. But it's very important because I do know people are struggling, and what I realize is they're coming away from some of those basics. So I want to make sure that they are knowledgeable, that you are knowledgeable, if indeed that reflects you, to be fortified with what you need to do to take care of your body. Now, being alone is a blessing. See it as a blessing. This is a time to be rejuvenated and have a plan. And in addition to that, you want to make sure that you're packing that suitcase with those good memories and packing it with motivational material that you read or you view, and listening to inspirational music. This is a time that you need to really guard the avenues of your soul and make sure you're fortifying yourself so you can enjoy these moments by yourself, because it is a golden time for you. Well, I'm Donna Smith, and that's Sound Advice. See you next show.